Okay, hi everyone, welcome back. And in this update, we are going to check out KASPA's price chart and see what is going on in the short term. But before we get into all that good stuff, at first I want to talk to you about a very important thing that recently has been happening in a lot of altcoins, and KASPA definitely isn't an exception. And it's the fact that supply on exchanges in the last, let's say, 48 to 72 hours have seen a massive drop. Now, usually when we are seeing a reduction on supply on exchanges, we are saying, well, okay, people aren't going to sell, because if they wanted to sell, well, okay, they would have kept their tokens on exchanges in order to sell immediately. So when they are trying to get their tokens out of exchanges, that means they are actually planning to hold. And we usually view this as a very optimistic sign, suggesting, yes, we are most likely getting close to some sort of a mid, potentially even hopefully long-term low. Now, this example right in here in KASPA that has been happening in the last 48 to 72 hours, because it also happened in a lot of altcoins, I'm going to say most likely was actually because of the rumors that are currently going about the exchange. And I'm not going to throw any shade on them. Actually, for that matter, let's just say this. I think they don't really have that much of a big problem, but maybe it's best to not necessarily risk it and get your token out of exchanges in order to just to be safe. Okay, now, so far, we understood that this recent drop doesn't necessarily mean that we are going to form a low in KASPA, because this might be as a result of the recent rumors. However, the situation in KASPA is actually a little bit different than a lot of other altcoins. Why? Because you see, this chart actually shows the supply on exchanges for KASPA in the last 30 days. And as you can see, they have been constantly on a decline. And from these areas, about 4.1 billion token, we have seen about, let's say, almost like 500 million token getting out of exchanges. And to me, this is actually a good sign, suggesting those who are buying KASPA, they actually mostly at least plan to hold. And the recent price action, I know it is like absolutely annoying to see we are getting this move on the downside, especially because in here we could have had such a beautiful bullish setup. Is going to be annoying. I fully understand this. However, this doesn't necessarily mean that we should absolutely throw the towels and say KASPA is a terrible project. May I suggest, do your own due diligence, come up with your own conclusion, and then if you thought in terms of fundamentals KASPA is not a good project, you know what, more power to you. I absolutely respect your opinion. Just get out of KASPA, no hard feelings. Now, from my POV, I don't really think this is a terrible project. I think they do have a bright future ahead of themselves. That's why if we get a move down, I actually don't mind buying KASPA step by step, because I'm going to be honest with you, I don't really believe that by the end of this cycle, we are going to get in a situation where all altcoins are going to pump big time, including meme coins. Now, in my view, we are going to have an alt season. I'm not backing down from my idea. But having said that, I do believe that the projects that have good fundamentals are probably going to be the ones to appreciate big time, and KASPA, in my view, is definitely one of them. That's why as we go down, I actually buy KASPA a little bit at a time. Now, let's just zoom in more and see what happened. You see, the last time that we talked about KASPA, we were right around this consolidation pattern, and we were like, well, okay, obviously this is going to break on the upside, and maybe we're going to get a move down after it, followed by another move up. And we didn't really care about the short-term price action. We said what you do want to see in KASPA is maybe another move up, and then a decent consolidation pattern, followed by another move up, consolidation, and another move on the upside. And you might say, well, okay, we got that move, but I'm going to tell you, unfortunately, I do actually have my doubts. But you know what? Let's say we actually got that move up, and maybe on a higher degree. This is like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave on the upside. Now, question for you, what happens after a 5 wave up, even if you want to go according to the most bullish case? You know the answer. We are going to have a move down, but under any kind of circumstances, we should not take the lowest low all the way down here. And in KASPA, did we take the lows or not? let's just stretch the chart a little bit to see what did we do. As you can see, yes, by a decent margin, we absolutely took the loss. So this cannot actually be the beginning of a bullish setup, let's say the beginning of an uptrend. No, instead, I'm going to argue in KASPA, we actually had basically an A, B, C zigzag, and in terms of the subwaves, you know it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into A, correction for wave B, maybe ABC, maybe WXY, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave on the upside into wave C. Now, let's go on the live chart and see what is going on in here. So, in my view of this low in KASPA, you can say maybe we haven't taken it, and if you are a believer in that scenario, well, okay, this is going to be 5 up into A, ABC down into B, and another 5 wave on the upside into our C leg, and well, this definitely means our move down can continue a little bit more. Now, question is, can we argue that around here is going to be the end of our move on the downside? I'm going to be honest with you, I don't really think so. Why is that? I got two very important reasons for it. Number one, you see, whenever you're having a couple of lows, maybe 2, 3 lows quite close together, usually around here, a lot of short-term traders open some long positions in hope that we get one more bounce back, and instead the price actually does this. We get a move down and take all the lows, and in that process we are going to gather the liquidity that was created as a result of those short-term traders putting their stop under the lows. And I think in KASPA we might be in sort of kind of a similar situation. You see, these lows are quite close together. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lows very close together, and even in like very short term, I think probably some short term traders open some longs. So I'm gonna say, yeah, okay, fair enough, maybe we are going to get a bit of a bounce in here, but pay attention, that might end up being a correction structure followed by, you know it, unfortunately another move down in order to take the lows and possibly go a bit lower. Why is that? Because you see, in terms of classic technical analysis, meaning supports and resistances, we actually do have a decent support area right around the current point. Excuse me, let's just take this one, okay, right in here. However, because we are touching this support more than a couple of times, I'm going to argue this is starting to get weaker and weaker by the minute, meaning what? Maybe soon we are going to get a break of this thing. Now, let's say we are going to break it. In that scenario, what's going to be the next likely target? Well, I'm going to say the next one is going to be naturally around the next important support, right? Well, I'm not really sure if I have good news for you, because I think the next one is actually somewhere around 4.5 cents area right in here. And this isn't necessarily that much of an important support. We do have like a more important one, and that one is somewhere between 4.1 to about 4.25 cents. So here is what I'm trying to tell you. In terms of fundamentals, I think KASPA is a great project, but definitely do your due diligence and come up with your own conclusion. And then if you thought that this is a good token, okay, in like very short term, please understand that most likely this move down in KASPA is going to continue at least let's say for another 10% in order to get to here. And if you're not lucky, well, okay, maybe it's going to continue for another 20% in order to preferably actually get to about this important support. But from my POV, that's just going to be a decent long opportunity. Now, question: what is it that we need to see in KASPA in order for us to talk bullish and say, you know what, maybe we are hitting our final lows? Well, I think you know it in terms of Elios waves. If you want to say we have hit our final bottom, okay, fair enough. You need to be able to find off of the lowest low a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave on the upside, and I think there's actually a decent chance that this move up might happen rather quickly, and in it we are going to maybe and hopefully take this important high, and at that point, who knows, maybe our move up is going to get accelerated. Why do I say that? Because whenever we are seeing a continuous downtrend like the one that we are having currently in KASPA, starting from all the way up here around, let's say, July 22nd, well, okay, usually in these areas, a lot of people are taking short positions in hope that we continue our move down. Now, I think we can all agree that nothing is forever going to go down or up, right? That's why I'm going to say there will be a moment, hopefully soon in KASPA, where the trend is going to reverse. And at that point, a lot of stop losses are going to be hit, specifically those ones that are right now above this important high. Why do I say this high? Because pay attention, this is somewhere around 5.5 cents area, right? Well, I got a chart for you suggesting a lot of short-term traders do actually have their stop losses above that specific highs, and they are right now short. So if we see a move on the upside in KASPA, hopefully soon after the continuation of this short-term phase down, well, okay, number one, that means buyers are going to show up. And number two, our move up at that point is going to probably accelerate, because in this phase, we are going to hit a lot of stop losses, and in other words, create a short squeeze process. Okay, so I'm going to argue the rebounding phase in KASPA most likely is going to happen rather quickly. And by the way, that's not actually a specific for KASPA. No, you can check out many other altcoins. And one example that happened actually recently, and it's actually like a very clear-cut example, is going to be ICP. Check out ICP's price chart, because in the last 24 hours, we, I think, saw something like a 30-40% move on the upside. And in that process, a lot of stop losses were hit, and a lot of short-term traders who had shorts on ICP open unfortunately got wrecked. But hey, I'm not really mad about that. Maybe I'm gonna say they actually deserved it. So in KASPA, do not get me wrong, overall I am bullish. However, in the short term, maybe our move down is going to continue a bit, and that's not necessarily going to be a bad sign, at least from my POV. And I hope I explained everything well and you understood what is going on in KASPA's chart. And until the next update, I hope you have a wonderful time. Goodbye.